tell you that the field of retina is in the midst of a tremendous number of really important clinical trial development programs. And there's a lot of new data coming out this year, 2023. And there will be multiple presentations at 2023 ASRS that are going to be first-time data releases for important medications that people have been thinking about and talking about for a long time. And there's 3 or 4 that I can mention. So they fall into dry AMD, diabetic macular edema, and then surgical interventions. And there's also DME in there as well. But just to go through those, probably the largest story in retina over the last year has been the FDA approval of the first ever drug to treat geographic atrophy called pegcetacoplan. And there's going to be a really important presentation at ASRS, which is called the GALE data set, which is an extension trial following the phase 3 Derby and Oaks trial, which are the phase 3 clinical trials that served as the basis for FDA approval of pegcetacoplan in February of 2023. And so there's going to be an important presentation about the continued efficacy and safety of pegcetacoplan. The second data set within geographic atrophy is by a new molecule called ANX007. It's a intravitreal injectable agent that targets C1q. So it's a new target within the complement cascade, right? Remember, pegcetacoplan targets C3, and ANX007 targets something upstream on the classical pathway called C1q. And there will be a first-time data presentation of a very large, double-masked, very well-controlled phase 2 trial for ANX007 to talk about those clinical results. And the reason those are important, we've seen top-line results in a press release from the company, and it seemed that while the drug did not significantly reduce geographic atrophy lesion growth, there may have been some visual benefit. So it may have slowed the worsening of visual acuity, which would be really the first time that we've seen that, to slow the progression of geographic atrophy associated vision loss through 1 year. So an important data set. And then maybe 2 more I'd put on the radar. The next one is a surgical intervention, which is it's called ECT, or encapsulated cell technology, which is a little implantable device that goes in through a 3-millimeter scleral wound at the pars plana. So it's surgically implanted, and it produces ciliary neurotrophic factor, or CNTF. So these are genetically modified human RPE cells that produce CNTF, and they have been studied now in 2 well-controlled, global, actually sham-controlled trials in which the surgical implants were placed compared to a sham surgery in patients with macular telangiectasia type 2. So it's a relatively rare disease, but it's a disease that's commonly misdiagnosed and probably underappreciated broadly because it can be misdiagnosed as DME or wet AMD. But it's a disease that's had no treatment to date, and it's a progressive a loss of the central macular tissue. And the top line data for this new surgical drug through 2 years of follow-up in a global phase 3 trial program, 2 parallel phase 3 trials, showed a meaningful and statistically significant reduction in expansion of the areas of tissue loss. So quite meaningful for the field, and that may be FDA approved over the next many months to year. And then the fourth, if I had to pick the top 4, the fourth one would be in DME, is the GLEAM and GLIMMER data set, which are global phase 3 trials looking at the drug KSI 301 compared to aflibercept. And this is a global phase 3 program in center-involved DME with vision loss, looking at an agent that may have increased durability. And what's interesting in this space is that this agent has had a challenging outcome in their wet AMD program in the past, and had a relatively positive outcome in their RVO program. And so this is a really important data set for the field to see if this drug may be something that could be used commercially.